The Galactic War Council convened in a chamber of cold precision, suspended in the void between stars. Luminescent glyphs scrolled across the air, detailing casualty estimates, strategic forecasts, and probability matrices. The consensus was clear. The humans would surrender. They are a primitive, emotional species, intoned strategist Kvar the Zeldar Dominion, his many-jointed fingers tapping against the crystalline table. Their planet is vulnerable. Their fleets are laughable. Their extinction is a mere formality. High Chancellor Vrex of the Ithri, Accord flicked his mandibles in agreement. Historical analysis indicates that inferior species either submit or perish. Humanity will beg for mercy. A chorus of alien voices echoed their certainty. Numbers did not lie. Their simulations predicted surrender within days. They had not accounted for Captain Elias Mercer. Mercer leaned back in his chair aboard the Dauntless, Earth's last functioning warship in this sector, and watched the ultimatum flicker across the screen. The Council's message was diplomatic. In the way a boot on the neck might be considered gentle. Surrender Earth. Lay down all arms. Accept subjugation. Refusal will result in planetary eradication. The bridge was silent, save for the rhythmic tapping of Dr. Lin Zhang's stylus against her datapad. She adjusted her glasses, expression unreadable. Well, she said at last, at least they were polite. Mercer exhaled through his nose, glancing around the room. His team was small, but each of them was here for a reason. Sergeant Marcus Brick Calloway, built like a mountain sculpted from pure defiance, cracked his knuckles. I vote we tell him to shove it. We're outnumbered, Lieutenant Nia Torres pointed out. She was the youngest on the crew, but her mind worked in ways Mercer had learned to trust. We got one ship, a dwindling supply of fuel, and weapons that won't even tickle their shields. Brick shrugged. Sounds like a fair fight. Zhang sighed. Ignoring Brick's bloodthirsty tendencies for a moment, he's not entirely wrong. They think they've already won. That gives us an advantage. Mercer nodded. They expect compliance, so we give them the opposite. Torres arched an eyebrow. You want to provoke them? Not exactly, Mercer said, eyes gleaming. I want to confuse them, make them question their own intelligence. Brick grinned. That's my specialty. The Galactic War Council did not expect the response they received. It was a single transmission, broadcast on every frequency. The image of Captain Mercer appeared, looking infuriatingly relaxed for a man moments from extinction. Apologies for the delay, he said, stretching. We were just discussing your generous offer. Very compelling. Truly, lots of big words. Unfortunately, we'll have to decline. A murmur spread through the council chamber. Declining was not an option. Vrex leaned forward, his voice a low hiss. You understand the consequences. Mercer blinked, as if hearing the word for the first time. Consequences. Right. You mean the whole fire and death bit? Scary stuff. He held up a finger. But here's the thing. Have you actually fought humans before? Or did you just run some equations and assume we'd roll over? Kvar's translucent eyes narrowed. We have modeled all outcomes. Resistance is... futile? Yeah. We've heard that one before. Mercer grinned. And yet, somehow, we always end up surprising folks like you. With that, the transmission cut. The chamber buzzed with disbelief. This is irrational. An Alderai strategist chittered. They should be pleading for survival. Vrex's mandibles clicked in irritation. Then we will remind them why resistance is foolish. Orders were sent. The first wave of destruction began. The Dauntless shook as enemy ships entered the system. Zhang clutched the console, scanning the data stream. They're deploying automated attack swarms. High-speed, self-replicating. Brick cracked his neck. I hate bugs. Focus, Mercer ordered. Torres. She was already working. Their targeting systems run on a predictive model, adapt to enemy behavior in real time. But if we introduce chaos... Brick smirked. Chaos is my middle name. No, it isn't, Zhang muttered. Mercer leaned forward. How do we break their prediction models? Torres grinned. By being unpredictable. Mercer exhaled. All right, let's show them what irrational really looks like. As the alien fleet advanced, Earth's lone warship did not retreat. It did not surrender. It did something no simulation had ever predicted. It fought back. The first wave of alien attack drones descended on the Dauntless like a swarm of mechanical locusts, darkening the void with their sleek, segmented forms. Their movements were precise, calculated, each unit working in perfect synchronicity with the others. Their algorithms had determined the most efficient path to destruction. And yet, within moments of engagement, the swarm was in chaos. Confirmed kills. 57, Zhang reported, fingers flying over her console. They're trying to adapt, but... Mercer, cut in. But we're too damn stupid for them to predict. Zhang pushed her glasses up with an exasperated sigh. In less crude terms, yes, their targeting algorithms rely on pattern recognition. Human combat strategies don't follow patterns. Brick hooped as the Dauntless banked sharply, sending another cluster drone spiraling past harmlessly. Hell yeah, we're unpredictable idiots. Torres shot him a look. That's not exactly a compliment. Mercer smirked. It is today. The Dauntless twisted and rolled in ways that should have been tactically illogical, its course an erratic dance to the storm of enemy fire. Zhang had reprogrammed their ship's movement algorithms to introduce random variations, throwing off enemy projections. Torres had fed the aliens false telemetry, making it seem as though the Dauntless was in multiple places at once. Meanwhile, Brick had taken charge of their counterattack in the most Brick way possible. Launching distraction package, he announced, slamming his fist onto a glowing red button labeled "Do Not Press Unless Insane." Seconds later, dozens of cargo pods shot from the Dauntless, scattering in all directions. Please tell me those aren't warheads, Zhang muttered. Better, Brick grinned. They're full of scrap metal and heat signatures. To the enemy's AI-controlled drones, it looked like a battlefield full of high-priority targets. They divided their firepower, splitting their focus. But the instant they started adjusting to the new variables, Mercer altered their trajectory again. The result? A fleet designed for efficiency found itself outmaneuvered by sheer absurdity. Mercer leaned back in his chair. Torres, tell me we're getting through to their command network. Torres's fingers danced across her terminal. Intercepting transmissions now. There. Oh, wow. They're arguing. Brick snorted. The big bad Galactic War Council? Arguing over Lil OLS? Torres grinned. Looks like our unpredictable idiocy is starting to break their consensus. But Zhang's expression darkened. Don't celebrate yet. Their second wave is mobilizing. Mercer's jaw tightened. What are we dealing with? Zhang's screen flickered with incoming data. Larger ships. Manned. They're abandoning automated tactics and moving to direct control. Torres exhaled, which means they're taking us seriously. Mercer nodded. Good. Let's make them regret it. In the cold depths of space, a fleet of warships emerged from the shadows of a gas giant. These were not mindless drones. They were piloted by living beings, each trained for the singular purpose of enforcing the Galactic War Council's will. Aboard the flagship Irrevocable Justice, Commander Veshti Ithri Accord studied the battle data. His claws flexed in irritation. These humans, he hissed. They fight without logic. A subordinate clicked its mandibles. They should not be this difficult to exterminate. Vesh's gaze flicked to projection of the Dauntless. One ship, one fragile, insignificant ship against the might of the Council. And yet it had survived. It was unacceptable. Dispatch the interceptors, he growled, and inform the Council that I will end this farce myself. Back aboard the Dauntless, alarms blared. Hostiles incoming, Zhang reported. Multiple capital ships closing fast. Mercer nodded. Time to leave. Brick frowned. We're running. We're repositioning, Mercer corrected. Zhang, plot a micro-jump to the asteroid field on the system's edge. She hesitated. That field is dense. High collision risk. Mercer grinned, which means they won't expect us to be stupid enough to hide in it. Brick laughed. I love this plan. Torres sighed. That makes one of us. The ship shuddered as its warp drive engaged, reality stretching for a heartbeat before snapping back. They emerged amidst a maze of tumbling asteroids, some the size of cities, others no bigger than a fist. The Dauntless weaved through the chaos, barely avoiding disaster at every turn. Seconds later, the enemy fleet arrived. They followed us, Zhang muttered. Mercer smirked. Good. Torres's eyes widened. Wait, you wanted them to chase us. Sure did. Mercer pointed at a readout. See that? Zhang's fingers flew across her console. Then she grinned. Oh, that's clever. Brick blinked. Someone want to explain to the guy who punches things? Torres grinned. We just lured them into a minefield. Not a literal minefield. An asteroid field thick with rogue energy storms, gravitational eddies, and magnetic anomalies. It was the kind of place no sane fleet would willingly enter. Unfortunately for the enemy, they had made the mistake of chasing humans into insanity. The first warship to fire its thrusters too hard sent a shockwave through the surrounding asteroids, triggering a chain reaction of collisions. Another ship, its sensors scrambled by electromagnetic interference, miscalculated its trajectory and was crushed between two massive rocks. One by one, the fleet fell into disarray. Mercer leaned back. Now, let's see if their arrogance lets them survive their own mistake. On the irrevocable justice, Commander Vesh watched in horror as his fleet faltered. His ships designed for perfect order, were being undone by a battlefield of chaos. This, Vesh whispered, this is not possible. He had underestimated them, and now he would suffer for it. Back aboard the Dauntless, Zhang watched as the surviving enemy ships began to retreat. They're pulling back, she reported. Mercer exhaled. Then we just did the impossible. Brick grinned. And we didn't even die. Bonus points. Torres shook her head in amazement. We just humiliated the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Zhang pushed her glasses up. Yes, which means they're going to escalate. Mercer's grin faded. She was right. The Galactic War Council had expected their first attack to end in victory. Now, they would come back with something worse. Something devastating. Mercer turned his crew. Then we'd better be ready. The Galactic War Council did not handle failure well. Their war simulations had projected humanity's surrender within hours. Instead, a single human warship had humiliated an armada. The mathematical impossibility of it sent ripples of unease through the council chambers. Strategist Quares's voice was tight with disbelief. The humans cannot be superior in tactics. They lack coordination. Their technology is primitive. High Chancellor Vrex's mandibles clicked in irritation. And yet they remain alive. Across the chamber, a new figure spoke, a towering, crimson-skinned Thanic warlord known as High Marshal Reth. Unlike the others, he did not rely on probability matrices or war simulations. He had built his empire through fire and blood. These humans fight like cornered beasts, Reth rumbled. We will break them as we have broken others. Vrex hesitated. The council prided itself on clinical precision, on conquest through logic rather than brute force. But now, their enemies were neither logical nor predictable. Do what must be done, Vrex said. Humanity must learn its place. The Dauntless floated in the shadow of a dead moon, its hull scarred from battle. Inside, the crew gathered around a flickering hollow map of the sector. Mercer studied the display, arms crossed. They're regrouping, which means whatever comes next will be worse. Zhang nodded. Our tricks worked once, but they won't underestimate us again. Their systems will be adapting. Good, Brick said, leaning back in his chair. That just means we get to surprise them a second time. Torres rubbed her temples. With what exactly? We're still outgunned, outnumbered, and running out of time. Zhang tapped her console, and the holomap shifted, highlighting a nearby space station. This. Mercer raised an eyebrow. What am I looking at? A derelict relay station, abandoned for decades. But its core systems are still operational. Zhang's eyes gleamed. If I can access it, I might be able to override the enemy's fleet coordination. Torres frowned. Wouldn't they notice us tampering with their systems? Not if we make them look somewhere else, Mercer said. Brick grinned. Ah, you're talking about a distraction. Mercer smirked. A big one. The Dauntless emerged from the moon's shadow, heading toward the relay station. Halfway there, Zhang broke the silence. I've detected something. A new energy signature. Torres's console flickered as she pulled up the readings. Her face went pale. That's not just a fleet. That's an extermination force. A dozen massive warships had entered the system, each one capable of reducing a planet to rubble. At their center loomed the harrowing Wrath, High Marshal Ref's personal dreadnought. Brick let out a low whistle. That's a lot of firepower. Mercer exhaled. Then we'll have to be louder. While Zhang and Torres infiltrated the relay station, Mercer and Brick took the Dauntless straight into the heart of the enemy formation. It was, by all rational standards, suicide, which was exactly why it worked. The Dauntless roared to the enemy lines, broadcasting nonsense signals, launching decoy drones, and generally causing as much chaos as possible. Ref's ships scrambled to respond, their coordination unraveling just enough to buy time. Inside the relay station, Zhang worked furiously, lines of alien code scrolling across her screen. Torres kept watch. Hurry! They're catching on. I'm going as fast as I can, Zhang muttered. These systems weren't designed for human interaction. A red warning flashed across the screen. Zhang cursed. They've noticed us. We have maybe 2 minutes before. The station trembled. An enemy boarding party had arrived. Torres drew her sidearm. Stay behind me. Zhang swallowed hard. Not planning on getting shot. Thanks. Gunfire erupted in the station corridors. Torres moved like a dancer, weaving between cover, returning fire with precision. But there were too many of them. Zhang clenched her jaw, fingers flying across the console. Almost there. The screen flashed access granted. She slammed a final command into the system, then grabbed Torres's arm. We have to go. Now. Back aboard the Dauntless, Mercer saw the change immediately. The enemy fleet hesitated. Ships veered off course, their targeting systems glitching. Then the real chaos began. Zhang's had infiltrated their fleet coordination protocols. In their effort to predict human behavior, the aliens had built a system that relied entirely on collective decision-making. By introducing even the slightest randomness, Zhang had turned their precision into disorder. Enemy ships mistook friendlies for hostiles. Formation patterns collapsed. Orders contradicted themselves. High Marshal Ref bellowed in rage as his dreadnought's shields flickered, leaving it vulnerable. Mercer saw the opening. Brick, do something stupid. Brick grinned. With pleasure. He fired the Dauntless' entire payload of torpedoes at a nearby asteroid. The explosion sent a field of high-speed debris slamming into Ref's flagship, crippling its engines. For the first time in history, the Galactic War Council's mightiest fleet was in retreat. Mercer watched them go, exhaling slowly. That'll do. Torres, breathless, collapsed into her chair. Did we just win? Zhang, still shaken, managed a small smile. We won this round. Mercer's eyes darkened. They'll be back. Brick smirked. Good. I'd hate for the fun to be over. The Galactic War Council was in chaos. Their war fleet, the pride of 1,000 civilizations, had not only failed to annihilate a single human warship, but had been forced into a retreat. Their coordination algorithms had collapsed, their battle formations had crumbled, and now their enemies had slipped through their fingers. For the first time in recorded history, the Council was uncertain. High Chancellor Vrex seethed. Explain this disaster. A trembling Ithri tactician displayed the battle data. The humans exploited our fleet's reliance on predictive modeling. They introduced randomness into our systems. Strategist Quares, spines bristled. That should not have been possible. Then High Marshal Ref spoke. This is not war, he growled. It is mockery. His crimson eyes burned with fury. The only thing more unbearable than failure was humiliation. And so, Ref did what the Council had refused to do. He abandoned strategy. He chose annihilation. On the Dauntless, Captain Mercer's team watched the sensor data with grim faces. They're coming back, Zhang murmured. and they're done playing. The enemy fleet re-entered the system in force, moving without their usual precise formations. There were no complex maneuvers this time, no attempts at strategy. They had learned their lesson. Humans thrived on unpredictability. So now they would burn everything. Mercer exhaled. All right, options. Torres studied the data. If we run, they'll catch us. If we fight, we die. Brick cracked his knuckles. So we make sure we die loud. Zhang's fingers tapped a frantic rhythm on the console. No, we don't die at all. The others turned to her. The relay station. Our hack gave us access to their battle network, she explained. I still have a backdoor into their fleet protocols. If I can get close enough to the dreadnought. Mercer's brow furrowed. What's the play? Zhang adjusted her glasses. We make them surrender. The Dauntless accelerated straight toward the enemy fleet. This is insane, Torres muttered. Mercer smirked. That's the spirit. The enemy warships unleashed hell. Energy lances scorched space. Missile barges darkened the stars. And yet the Dauntless weaved through the chaos like a ghost, dodging destruction by fractions of a second. Brick hooped. They can't hit what they don't understand. At the heart of the enemy formation, High Marshal Rest sneered. End them. The harrowing wrath charged its main weapon, a supermassive particle cannon capable of slicing a moon in half. The glow of its ignition bathed the battlefield in eerie red light. Mercer gripped his seat. Zhang, now would be good. Zhang's fingers danced over her console. Her breath hitched. Almost. The cannon fired. A beam of death streaked toward them and vanished. The battlefield flickered. Enemy warships stuttered in place, their engines shutting down in perfect synchrony. The Dauntless soared unharmed through the now motionless fleet. Zhang exhaled, shaking. I did it. Mercer grinned. You just hijacked their entire armada. Torres blinked at the lifeless enemy ships. Wait, you mean they can't move? Brick burst out laughing. We just pants the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. On the harrowing wrath, High Marshal Rest slammed a fist into his console. Restore power. Nothing happened. Then the humans hailed him. Mercer appeared on the dreadnought's main screen, leaning casually against his chair. Hi. Just calling to let you know we win. Rest's lip curled. You think you've won? Yeah, pretty much, Mercer said. Here's the deal. We have control of your fleet. We could destroy you right now. Or you could turn around and tell your bosses that humanity isn't in the mood to surrender. Reth seethed. His instincts screamed for war, for blood. But he had no weapons, no fleet, no options. With a slow, furious breath, he cut the transmission. The once mighty war fleet, humiliated beyond measure, retreated. Back aboard the Dauntless, the crew sat in stunned silence. Brick let out a low whistle. We actually pulled it off. Zhang slumped in her chair, exhausted. I can't believe that worked. Torres grinned. We just made history. Mercer leaned back, watching the defeated armada disappear into the void. And we didn't even have to fire a shot. For the first time, the Galactic War Council had encountered an enemy that didn't just fight harder, but smarter. Humanity had defied the odds. Again. And this time, the galaxy had no choice but to take them seriously.